My kitchen sink said my name in my sister's voice. Not from the hallway, not from her room. From the drain. My name rolled up out of the steel like air bubbling through a straw. The words stretched and wet. "Hey, can you come here? I need a hand." I froze with my palms flat on the counter, listening to my own heartbeat in my ears. Lena was asleep, I knew she was. I'd just checked on her 20 minutes earlier. What answered from the drain sounded exactly like her, except the breath never pushed out between words. It pulled in, like the voice was inhaling me. If you're one of those folks who throws these stories on while you wash dishes, do me a favor for your own nerves. When the house is quiet and the pipes hum, make sure you know who's calling you before you answer. That's all I wish someone had told me. My name's Nate. I haul for a storage auction company out in West Texas, Lubbock, Amarillo, down into New Mexico when the checks bounce and folks ghost their units. Nights pay extra, so I take nights. It's me, an old Silverado with a busted speedometer, and a crowbar that's seen more stories than I have. I'm 29, living in a small rental with my kid sister, Lena. She's 22, working through rehab after a car wreck last fall. The medical bills hit like a sledgehammer, so I work the kind of jobs that make you look over your shoulder. That afternoon, I pulled up to Sunland Storage off Highway 84. Flat land, a wind that chews your lips up. A strip of blue neon from the laundromat across the road. The manager, Paez, slid the roll-up door for Unit 1313 and grinned like the devil was about to tip. "Been in there 2 times to catalog," he said. "Smells weird. Somebody wrote don't open on half the boxes like I'm gonna listen. If you've never been inside a defaulted unit, it's its own kind of grave. Whole lives shrink-wrapped and stacked. Same old hits, mattress, Rubbermaid tubs, crates of kitchen junk. But in the back, tucked behind a busted dresser, I found the jar. It wasn't normal glass. Black, thick, like a liquor bottle made out of volcanic rock, bellied in the middle with a short neck. The top was sealed in gray wax stamped with a ring of tiny nails pressed through it, heads shining like fish eyes. Red thread was wrapped under the wax so tight it had cut into the glass. Someone had scrawled in grease pencil across the belly, "No Abe Rear." Under it, in a faint scratch, there was a line I didn't recognize. Curvy letters like the ones you see on prayer beads in mall kiosks. The jar shifted heavy in my hands, like sand inside. When I tilted it, something dragged along the bottom, dry and metallic. It gave off this cold copper smell, like pennies sucked clean. I took it because, of course I did. The company policy is you move everything. And because there's a certain kind of broke that makes you gamble, telling yourself, hey, if it's worth nothing, it's still a story I can tell Lena when we're eating off-brand Mac. If it's worth something, maybe I catch up on a bill. Back home, I unloaded everything to the garage. The jar I set on the kitchen counter, because it felt wrong to leave. It in the dark with the trunks and doll heads. Lena rolled by on her crutches, squinted at it, and laughed. "You gonna summon a genie and wish off our debt?" I told her if a genie showed, I was demanding a new transmission and some peace and quiet. She kissed my cheek and limped off to bed early, Netflix humming low under her door. Around midnight, I poured myself a coffee I didn't need and turned the jar in the lamplight. The wax had little bubbles like old candle drips. The nails weren't nailed through a cork. They were sunken into the seal itself. Circles of rust around each head like halos. The red thread was brittle. I tried not to be that guy in a movie yelling, "Don't open the thing." But here's the part I have to own. I cut it. Pocket knife under the wax, slow twist. The smell hit first. Wet dirt and cold metal. Summer rain in the mouth of a cave. The room got 10 degrees cooler. The wax cap wiggled. I worked it free and set it down. Inside, the jar's throat was black as a well. No smoke, no lights, no John Williams music. Just that smell and the quiet you get in an empty church. Something slid against the glass. It wasn't dramatic. Just that dry scrape like a bead on a string moving toward me. I held my breath and tipped the jar over the sink. Thinking if there was old sand in there, I didn't want it on the counter. Nothing poured. I knocked the bottom with my palm. Silence. I laughed. Told myself I'd been hyping a fancy bottle with a Halloween note. Wiped the blade clean and put the jar upright again. That's when the faucet spit once and bled this thin line of water all by itself. The pipes gave a tired groan I'd never heard before, like the house was clearing its throat. The air tasted like a coin jar. I decided I was tired and stupid and that I should get some sleep before. I invented more nonsense. I cleaned up, clicked off the lamp and poked my head in Lena's room. She was out cold. One hand flopped over the blanket, soft snore. TV on its "Are you still watching" screen. I shut her door gently and stood there a second, just listening to the house tick and settle, the kind of quiet that makes you notice your own breath. When I stepped back into the kitchen, I heard it. Soft at first, like a neighbor through a wall. "Nate, you up?" It came from the sink. Same exact pitch as Lena's voice. Same little rasp she gets when she's tired. Only the words were wrong. "You want to split that easy cake or what?" She never says easy cake. It's easy as cake, because she's been messing that saying up forever to bug me. The voice from the drain got it right. That should have calmed me. But what rattled my spine was the way it set it all on a pull, like the syllables were inhaling through water. "No way," I thought. "No way." I leaned in without meaning to. The steel was cold under my fingers. The drain shimmered, a thin skin of water trembling without any tap running. I could hear breathing from down there, slow and steady, not matching mine. "Nate," the voice whispered, and then it repeated my name exactly like I say it to myself when I'm annoyed. "Come here a sec. Bring the jar. I need a hand." Every hair on my arm stood up. My idiot brain tried to rationalize it. Wind in the vent, TV echo, pipe cough. But there was no TV on out here, and the window was shut, and the air was dead still. I backed up until my hip bumped the counter. The black jar sat there like it was watching me, wax crumbs and a red ring around it. That was the moment. I knew I'd brought something home that wasn't going to let me sleep again. I didn't answer the sink. I didn't even swallow. I just whispered Lena's name to make sure she hadn't woken and was messing with me. From her room, nothing. From the drain, a new word surfaced in that same voice, soft as dust. "Please." I didn't answer. I backed away until the cabinets pressed my spine, and the counter edge dug into my hip. The drain surface trembled. The little basket strainer twitched like a silver eyelid. 3 slow knocks came from inside the pipe. I swear to you, from inside, the sound thudded up through the U-trap like knuckles on wood. "What do you want?" I said, because apparently I'm that guy who talks to sinks at 3 a.m. The voice rose on a soft inhale. "Open the door. Bring me up. Please, Nate." "There is no door," I said. "And you're not Lena." Silence followed, then the faintest laugh. Not funny, haha. More like air catching on teeth. The faucet handle nudged itself a 1/4 inch and stopped. A bead of water bulged from the spout, fat and wobbling, then rolled backward into the metal like the sink had breathed it in. I grabbed the black jar because every nerve in me said the jar was the problem, not the pipes. It was colder than it had any right to be. The ring of tiny nail heads hummed against my palm as if something inside was running fingers along the glass. I marched it into the garage, heart knocking, and set it on the workbench. Old habits and old superstitions mixed in my head. My grandmother used to toss salt across doorways when folks fought. I tore open a shop bag of water softener, pellets, and crushed a handful under my boot until I had coarse salt. I poured a thick line around the jar. Not a perfect circle, more like a horseshoe because I ran out and had to stretch it. It made me feel 1 notch less crazy. I shut the garage door and stood there listening to the wind. Nothing. The house behind me creaked once like a sigh. Back in the hall, I paused outside Lena's room. "You good?" I whispered. She didn't stir. The TV threw a blue wash across her ceiling. That's why I noticed the damp handprint above her door frame, up where nobody could reach without a chair. 5 long fingers, water beating at the tips, as if someone had pressed a wet hand there and pulled it down slow. I touched it, expecting cold paint. My fingertip came away gritty, like fine sand stuck in the moisture. My stomach flipped. I went back to the kitchen to grab a towel, and my brain did that skip you get when reality forgets its lines. The jar was sitting on the counter. It had left a dark ring where it wasn't a second ago, an outline of wet grit and rust shining under the lamp. The nails in the wax weren't still anymore. One had worked itself loose 1/2 centimeter and seemed to be leaning outward, like it wanted out. Something heavy slid inside the glass and tapped twice, patient. I ran to the garage because denial is a powerful drug. The line of salt on the concrete had a smear across the open end, like a tongue had licked the gap. In the middle sat nothing but a few red thread fibers and a thumbnail of gray wax. The jaw hadn't jumped. It had walked through the mistake I left it. From the kitchen, the voice called again. "Nate," it breathed. like I do when my chest's tight after hauling a dresser. "Bring me the jar." "I'm not bringing you anything," I said, and my voice cracked. It tried a different tactic. "My leg hurts," it whimpered in Lena's tone. I fell, "Please." The second please was dead on perfect. Same softness my sister uses when she doesn't want to freak me out, only there was a rhythm under it, like two breaths stacked wrong. I pushed into her room anyway because fear makes you check even when you know better. She was out cold, blankets kicked to her shins, mouth open, alive and snoring. But now there were wet marks on the wall over her headboard. 4 prints in a row where fingers had tapped, each one higher than the last, climbing toward the air vent. A drop of water fell from the vent grill and darkened her pillowcase. I put a towel there and eased the door shut. When I turned back to the hallway, the front door chain clinked without the door moving, like someone had tugged it from the other side. I locked the deadbolt out of reflex, and felt stupid immediately because locks don't mean much to things that travel through pipes. The house was listening, you could feel it. The way a crowd quiets before the lights go down. In the kitchen, the jar had rotated on its own to face the sink. If that makes sense, the red thread, which should have been brittle and dead, had uncoiled from under the wax and dipped toward the counter, inching like a thin red worm. I said a word I won't repeat and smacked the thread with the dish towel. It stuck to the terry cloth like a slug. The voice tried again, not Lena this time, me. It spoke in my own voice from the drain, so perfect my bones ached. "Come here," it inhaled. "Don't be dramatic, man. We're wasting time." Something thumped in the cabinet under the sink, hard enough to bow the doors. Another thump. Hinges squeaked. The magnetic latch snapped open and the door eased out an inch. Then closed, then eased again, like somebody testing a crowd for space. I grabbed the only thing with weight within reach, a cast iron skillet, and knelt. Cold air poured out from the gap, the kind of cave cold that stings your gums. The trap pipe was sweating, little beads of water racing each other. On the inside wall of the cabinet, I watched a line appear in the moisture as if an invisible finger was writing. And the line got my whole name, letter by letter, backward like it was writing from the other side of the wood. "Don't," I said. "Useless word." The last letter curled into a period and then a smiley face. Not because it was joking, I think because it didn't understand punctuation. A soft tapping started somewhere above me. I looked up. The ceiling over the sink had a faint print, like a damp foot had stepped there, toes pointing toward the hallway. Then another, closer to the light. Each print left a comment, tail of sand that fell in the beam and glittered down on the counter. Whatever it wasn't only in the pipes anymore. It was moving where it wanted, but it kept calling from the drain like that was home base. If you ever hear your own voice from inside your house saying your name wrong by one breath, you'll know the flavor of the dread I felt. Fight or flight jammed up. I did the dumb third thing and bargained. "What do you want besides me screwing up my plumbing?" I asked. The voice pulled in a slow breath and I swear it sounded pleased. "A name," it said. "A door, same thing." The jar slid 2 inches toward the sink without help, grit squealing under it. The faucet twitched. The cabinet door bulged again, wood complaining, as if a shoulder pressed for real this time. Then the disposal switch flipped down by itself. The motor screamed to life, hungry. The disposal screamed like it had bones in it. I smacked the switch down. It kept howling. I yanked the plug under the sink. It still whined for 2 whole seconds, long enough for the air to vibrate my teeth, and then the motor choked off. In the new quiet, I could hear the breathing from the drain again. Patient and close. "A name," it inhaled. "A door." "You're not getting mine," I said. "You're not getting hers." The thing laughed that dry little hitch. "Nathaniel," it tried. And I felt something pull at my chest like a fish tugging line. It was wrong, nobody calls me that. But the tug still sucked a breath out of me before I snapped back. I needed rules. If something can talk, it can answer. "What are you?" I asked. "What's in the jar?" "Dirt," it said, amused. "Heat, nails, me." "What are you?" A pause, like it was picking a word I'd understand. "Gin," it breathed. And the way it said it made the J hit like a knock and the neen drag like sand. Ifrit. Smoke without fire, fire without smoke. "Your people call every stranger a ghost." "Not ghost." I swallowed. Somewhere in the junk I dragged home from 1313 were the guy's papers. I sprinted to the garage and tore. through the Rubbermaids until I found a cigar box wedged under a crate of bowling trophies. Inside, a rosary with a snapped cross, a triangle of red thread, a Polaroid of a man at a kitchen table with the black jar in front of him, and a spiral notebook wrecked by coffee. In blocky Spanish, somebody had written in all caps, "No abrir, hilo rojo, clavos de hierro, sal, completa, no decir su nombre, pide, nombres, no le des nada después de las tres." Under that, in shaky English, if you break the thread, it is your breath. Circle of salt must be whole. Do not feed it a name. Past 3 hour, it will use any voice. The last page had a number and a name. M. Ochoa, Clovis. I dialed with my hands sweating. It rang too many times. A man answered, voice old and sandpapered. "You have the jar," he said. Not a question. "Unit 1313, I said. I didn't know what it was. You cut the thread, he finished. "Then it belongs to you now." "What is it exactly?" "You won't keep it long if you don't feed it," he said, very calm. "It trades in names. A name is a mouth, a door. Give it one, it pays you. You refuse, it eats around the edges, takes your sleep, your luck. Your sister first because the thing loves an easy door." My stomach turned. "Why is it in a jar?" He took a breath and I could hear wind where he was. "I trapped it for a man named Ramiro Ortiz 20 years ago. He picked it up south of Portales from a woman who sold protections. She pulled it out of a dry well in a bottle like that, bound with nails and red thread and a saint's wax. Ortiz liked what it did until he didn't want to carry the debt. He tried to starve it. It soured. I told him not to leave town with it. He stuck it in a storage unit and thought distance was the same as a circle. He died thirsty in a house with working faucets. In the kitchen, the disposal twitched like a cough. I pressed the phone tighter. "How do I shut it?" "You don't," he said. "You pass it or you bargain. Or you catch it in its mouth again. Salt iron thread. Circle must be whole. It can't cross a line of salt if the ring is tight. And it can't cross water unless you call it." I didn't call it. "You opened it," he said. "That's calling enough." The drain right on cue spoke with Ochoa's exact voice. The same tone, the same tiny wheeze. "You opened it," it said, inhaling the words. "That's calling enough." "I'm on the phone with you," I whispered. "Then hang up," both voices said at once, his in my ear. "It's from the sink." And a cold line of fear wrote itself down my back. Ochoa's voice on the phone coughed and came back thin. "It will listen now. It was made to. Don't give it a name. Don't say your sister's whole." The line filled with a slow, smiling static that breathed in and out. I hung up and set the phone on the counter like it was hot. "What do you pay?" I asked the drain because the only way out of a nightmare is through the rules. "If I gave you a name, what do you give back?" "Breath," it said. "Luck, money, bodies moved. Debt's gone. You want your sister's bones mended? Your truck fixed? Say a name, door." I pictured Lena sleeping under that dripping vent. Rage hit me hard enough to clear my fear for a second. "I'll give you a name," I said. And the word felt like holding a match over gasoline. But not hers. Not mine either. It hummed, pleased. A name is a name. I grabbed the salt and poured a thick, bright ring around the jar on the counter, this time complete. I ran the line up and over the sink rim, around the drain, a glowing necklace. I found a handful of roofing, nails in a drawer, and pushed their heads into the soft wax where others had worked loose. I yanked red twine from a busted laundry bag and wrapped it around the jar neck until my fingers burned. I didn't know if substitutes counted, but I needed to do something that looked like an answer. "Get back in," I told it. "You're going home," the voice chuckled. "Open a door." I thought of every person I hated in my bones. There was a landlord who stiffed us on repairs, a guy who slammed into Lena and ran, a father who left when I was 12. The names pushed at my teeth. The jar vibrated under my palm. Hungry. I said a name. Not a stranger. Not 1,000 miles away. My own. "Nate," I said. "Take Nate." The air paused, like even the house didn't expect me to be that dumb. The voice inhaled and sounded almost tender. "You already did," it said. "You opened the door with your breath. You can't feed me yourself. A door cannot step into a door." It made a small show of pity, which somehow pissed me off more than the fear. "Then choke," I said through my teeth. "Go hungry." I slammed the jar upside down over the sink. its mouth to the ring of salt circling the drain. The nails rattled. The wax smeared. For one heartbeat, everything was still. Then the drain breathed in hard like a drowning person. Cold shot up through the steel into my wrists. The jar's black glass fogged from the inside. Something heavy hit the inside, and a thin web of cracks raced across the wax. The red thread twitched like a vein. The voice didn't come from the drain anymore. It came from inside the jar, smaller and angrier. "Name," it hissed, and the hiss scraped like dry leaves. "One small." I held the jar down with my whole weight while the counter shook. The salt line around the drain sparked with tiny crackles like soda fizzing, and I smelled that coin jar stink so strong it made my eyes water. The nails in the wax pushed up one by one until their heads stood like tiny soldiers. The jar tried to inch forward. The salt held. "Why me?" I shouted because my arms were shaking and the anger boiled over the top. "Tell me why me." "You opened," it said. "Ramiro starved me. He wrote your door in his book so I could find you if I ever breathed again." The words came fast, sullen now. "He circled his debts. He circled you, brother, sister. Ortiz would not feed me, so I would feed on him. And he tried to throw me away. He paid late. You pay now." I looked down at the notebook on the counter, at the list of scribbles I'd skipped. There, under a column of half-faded names, was my last name in Ramiro's bad handwriting. Next to it, the storage unit address. My hands went colder than the glass. My anger broke and fear poured back in, hot and bright. I saw Lena as a child in a hospital bed the night of the crash. Lips cracked, asking for water she wasn't allowed to drink yet. The jar creaked. The wax split. The circle fizzed and spat, and the red thread cinched tight like a muscle pulling. "Fine," I said, and the word tasted like blood. "You want a door? I'll open one for you." My idea wasn't brave. It was ugly as hell, but it wasn't going to be my sister. It wasn't going to be my sister. I had a rotten door in mind. Ochoa. I opened my mouth to say it into the mouth of the jar, and headlights washed across the blinds. Gravel crunched, slow and careful. Someone tapped the door twice and waited like a man who knows how fear blooms. "Nate?" A voice old and worn. "It's Ochoa, open up." Every part of me said, "Don't," but standing there, with a jar breathing in my kitchen and damp, handprints on my ceiling. The idea of another human heartbeat felt like a life raft. I slid the chain and cracked the door. An old man stood on my stoop in a denim jacket and ball cap. Wind pushed grit around his boots. He didn't smell like rain or beer. He smelled like the jar, copper and cold dirt. Up close, I saw a faint groove around his right wrist, a scar ring as thin as thread. "You came fast," I said. "I never left far," he said. When the unit changed hands, I stayed on this side of the county, waiting for a fool who'd open it. He peered past me. "You did? You told me not to feed it," I said. "I told you not to feed it after 3, he corrected softly. "And it is after 3. Behind me, the jar ticked as a nail lifted itself another hair. The voice inside breathed in, pleased. "He brought me," it said. "He always does." I didn't move. "What do you want from me, Ochoa?" His eyes went to the ring of salt around the drain and back to my face. He did not step over the line. "I want what every man holding that mouth wants. To set it down and walk away without it following. You know how you do that?" He nodded at my sister's door. "You pick someone you can live with losing and speak them. Clean, simple, then you sleep. Major twist hits like a hammer when you're already hurting. He wasn't my rescue. He was the last guy in my spot, looking for a way to hand me his debt. You wrote my name in Ramiro's notebook," I said. He didn't flinch. "Ramiro wrote the list. I added the marks. People who owed me. People who owed the county. People with enough need to be greedy." He shrugged. "Debt finds debt. You hauled for Sunland. You'd open anything with a lock." I waited. My hands curled into fists. "You set me up. I opened it 20 years ago, because a woman told me it would save my boy," he said without heat. She was right for a while. Then the jar asked for more than I could find. I passed it to Ramiro. He passed it to the first mouth he could think of. "We're all trying to breathe. Same as you." The jar hummed like it enjoyed the confession. Around the wax rim, I could see little scratches. I hadn't noticed before, initials cut with a pin, RO, MO, tiny notches like teeth. Each nailhead had a mark near it, Ledger, not prison. You can't shut it, Ochoa said. You can only tighten it, carry it, or feed it. And it always comes back if you don't name a door on purpose. You could have burned it, I said. You can't burn a thing that swallows breath, he said, and his tired voice cracked for the first time. You can only choose who chokes. From the sink, the djinn took a long, happy inhale. The kitchen light dimmed like a tide went out of the room. The air pressure dropped so fast my ears popped. Every faucet in the house gave a soft cough in unison. Then water began to travel the wrong way, thin sheets rising up the drain, not down. Tiny streams peeled from the faucet and climbed, twisting into a braid that hovered under the spout like a clear rope. The salt ring around the drain started to sweat, beads melting into little islands. See? Ochoa whispered. Past 3, it shows you what it is. The rope of water lashed sideways and found the edge of my salt line. The hiss was instant and mean, like meat on a pan. The line thinned where the water kissed it. The jar shook under my hand hard enough to rattle the nails. One spat out and pinged across the counter. The lamp popped. Darkness coasted in from the hall. From down the hallway, Lena coughed once, then again, harder. That awful hollow cough you get when the air disappears. The djinn spoke from everywhere at once. Drain, jar, ceiling vent, even the little gap under the front door. Name for breath, it inhaled. A little one. Door for door. I felt something tug my own chest like a plug coming loose in my lungs. It wanted to drink. It could drink. It had teeth. Say any name, Ochoa said quickly. The drunk at the corner store. Your boss, me. Say it clean, first and last. Will it stop? I asked. For a while, he said. Long enough to sleep. I thought of Lena's blue face in the ER after the wreck. The way the nurse murmured, water you can't have, sweetheart. My voice went high and thin with panic. It's taking her air? Ochoa's jaw hardened. You knew this was how it goes. If you can't carry, you pass. That's the rule. In the bedroom, something thumped the wall. Not a footstep. Her hand. I looked at the jar. I looked at him. In the kind of rage that only happens when the person you love is drowning and you can't swim, I snapped. Fine, take... I almost said her name. I felt it rise and catch on my teeth like a fishhook. I bit down and tasted blood. The djinn laughed like sand pouring into a bottle. You almost fed me candy, it cooed, and the word candy rang with hunger. I'll give you Ochoa, I said instead, shoving the jar harder onto the salt ring. I'll give you Manuel Ochoa from Clovis right now. The house stopped breathing for a heartbeat. The water rope flexed. The jar's black glass fogged and the wax creaked. Ochoa didn't move. He didn't look surprised. He looked resigned. It won't take me, he said quietly. It already ate most of me when I tried to starve it. I'm dry. It wants a wet door. It wants what you have. Up the hall, Lena gasped a dry squeak. The vent above her bed rattled as if something inside was clawing for a grip. The rope of water slid toward the salt again and hissed it thin to a hair. The jar bucked. A crack raced through the wax like lightning and shot into the red thread. The thread tightened and then split with a noise like a violin string breaking. The thing inside pushed. Just for a second, it came up against the glass where the light from the window hit. Not a face. A shape like a hand made of wet sand and nail heads. Pressing, fingers splaying, each fingertip a tiny bead of rust. The glass bowed and snapped back. The pressure blew a cold wind through the kitchen that smelled like a well at noon. You can't bargain me with what I already own, it said. And this time it wasn't mimicking anyone. It was itself, old and young, thirsty as a roadkill ditch. Open a door, any door. Say it true. Lena choked again, longer, and then, through the wall, I heard the worst sound I've ever heard in my life. The hollow quiet that comes after somebody's breath runs out. I broke. Look, I started. And the second I hit the first syllable, I knew what I was doing. The jar thrilled under my hands like I'd poured sugar in it. The water rope lunged. The salt line sagged open like a mouth. No! I yelled and jammed my bloody thumb into the ring, smearing a new line with whatever iron I had to give. It fizzed, held for a half second. The djinn hissed hot and furious. Ochoa lunged for the counter then, old or not, fast as a coyote. He didn't try to help hold the jar. He grabbed my wrist and bent it toward my mouth. Say it, he barked, voice gone hard as rebar. Let it be done. You don't want to carry this thing. Save her the quick way. I ripped my arm free and slammed my shoulder into him. He hit the cabinet and slid, breath woofing out. Rage tore through me clean and sharp. "You did this to me," I said. "You to Ramiro, Ramiro to me? You're not a victim. You're a delivery guy for a throat." He didn't argue. The djinn made the argument for him. The water in the whole house went quiet, and then reversed. From the bathroom, I heard the toilet empty with a scream like a whale call. The shower coughed and inhaled. The kitchen sink drew a breath so deep my ears popped again. The air in the room tried to climb into the drain and take me with it. My cheeks hollowed. Spots burst in my vision. "Name," it said again almost kindly. One small and I let her lungs go. I thought of Lena's stupid easy as cake, of her rolling her eyes when I worry, of the way she used to steal the maraschino, cherries out of my drinks and stick the stems to her nose like a clown. I thought of the jar's little teeth marks, the initials crowding the wax, all the people some other brother chose. "Pick me," I said hoarsely, eyes stinging. "If a door can't be a door, then I'll be a wall. Pull until you break." "That isn't how it works," the djinn said, almost sad. From the hallway, her phone hit the floor with a soft slap. Then nothing. I did the only reckless, brutal thing left in me. I took a breath so big it hurt and screamed my sister's full name at the jar. Just the first half and bit the last syllable in half like I was chewing through a wire. The djinn went wild, roaring without sound. The ring split, the water rope whipped, and Lena's breath still didn't come back. The kitchen went coin cold. The jar's glass bowed with a wet creak. Nails jittered in the wax like teeth chattering. Air pressed flat against my eardrums. The drain inhaled, slow, greedy. I shoved my bloody thumb into the inch wide, gap and ground salt into it until the grains squealed. With my other hand, I crammed steel wool into the drain and fed roofing nails after it, edges biting crescent moons in my fingertips. The water rope writhed, thinned, hissed back. The jar kicked against my palm like a live thing trying to be born. Behind me, one dry thump as Lena's hand hit the wall. Then silence. The notebook skated off the counter, burst open to a page of hooked, curving letters, the same faint scratches I'd seen under the wax rim. "Don't say its name. Names are doors." So I drew it wrong. I clawed through spilled salt and traced those hook letters backward around the jar, sloppy mirror versions, clumped and crooked, a white ring of reversed thorns. Red twine burned my knuckles as I cinched it tighter around the neck. The thing purred from everywhere, words pulled in like breath over glass. "Say me sweet," it inhaled. "Say me open." I spit iron into the salt and said its name backward, every syllable mangled on purpose. The house answered. Nails slammed down home, click, 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 seating flush. The red thread cinched, scoring a dark ring into the wax. The water rope kinked and sagged into a cold rain. The light bulb sighed to dust inside the globe. The pressure snapped, pop, and the coin stink thinned. From the bedroom, a wet, beautiful gasp, then another. I ran. Lena rolled to her side, white-knuckled on my shirt. Coughing from so far down it shook her ribs. I held her steady until coughs loosened to hiccups and breath. Color crept from gray to pink. The skin at her throat fluttered like a trapped moth and finally settled. Back in the kitchen, the front door stood open. Night pushed grit across the mat. Old man boot prints went off into the alley. Ochoa's shadow hung on the threshold like a bad idea. "You tightened it," he said, voice thin. "You bought ours." He stepped inside and stopped at the salt halo. Up close, the groove around his wrist looked like thread fused under skin. He drew a breath in, readying a name. "Don't," I said, moving between him and the jar. "You can't carry that forever," he rasped. "Say a stranger. Say the man who hit her. Say me if it helps your conscience." He took another breath, jaw working. The jar vibrated under my palm, hungry for any syllable. I hit him with my shoulder. We bounced off the cabinets. Skillet clanged. He went to one knee, air gone woof. I slammed the door on his boots and threw the chain. His voice came small through wood. "You'll choose later." "Everyone does." The djinn laughed in the steel, dry sand pouring into a bottle. "Not him, not you." A wet door, it breathed, and the drain trembled like it was trying not to blink. "Pick me," I told it, throat raw. "Pull until you break." "That isn't how it works," it breathed, almost fond. So I made it work my way. I wrapped the jar in a towel and set it in the tub. Tile felt honest. I poured table salt in a full circle until the ring looked like frost. I hammered extra nails through the wax with the skillet heel. Dull thunks traveling up my arms. The circle fizzed soft like soda. The glass fogged, cleared, fogged, then stillness. The house exhaled. Pipes settled like old bones lining up. The coin taste receded. I sat on the bathroom floor with my back against the tub and held my sister's hand while her breathing evened. Every so often, the jar gave a tiny tick, like something inside shifting its weight and finding no purchase. When we could think again, I checked the wax. Fresh scratches glinted, an L carved deep, and the start of another stroke, like it had begun writing her into the ledger and I'd slammed the door on its fingers. The notebook's last page had a sketch I'd missed in the panic. A windmill, a circle of stones, a dangling bottle. Under Ochoa's number, faint pencil. If you close it, take it back. To where? Lena whispered, voice ragged but stronger. To the well it came from, I said. Tonight, before 3, she nodded like we were choosing tires. Okay. We taped the tote like sealing a wound. We swept glass and salt. I texted Paez to keep 1313 double locked. At noon, the ring around the tote began to sweat. Clear beads gathering, running as if the line had a pulse. The duct tape lifted at one corner with a polite peel. Like a fingernail inside found the edge. I pressed it back and sat on it. Cold leaked through plastic into my legs. The tote didn't make a sound exactly, just the long, tight quiet of something holding breath. By dusk, the sky went bruised blue. We muscled the tote into the truck bed. Gravel chirped. Wind worried the fence. The highway looked like a mouth with no teeth. This is when you tell me this isn't the dumbest thing we've ever done, Lena said, buckling up. Top 3, I said. Not number 1. She huffed a laugh for me. Easy as cake, she said, to make me smile. Only she breathed the A's in. We froze. From the garage, 3 even knocks traveled. The studs into the sink, tap, 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 the faucet quivered. A skin of water trembled in the drain, trying not to blink. Immediate danger was over. We'd bought ours, but the house had learned a new way to breathe. And out past a windmill on a nowhere road, something in a dry well had been waiting longer than either of us to be fed again. We follow a sketch with no street names to put a thirstier thing back where it came from and find what else was corked with it. If you want that drive into the dark with us, subscribe to MindLoop right now. Do it before your place gets quiet tonight. Do it before you hear 3 small knocks and, without thinking, your mouth answers with somebody's name.